Hello, and welcome to Super Switchheads, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Patrick Knisley. Here with me,
Matthew Stoner.
My name is David Howe.
And we have a special guest,
James West.
Hey,
It rhymes!
What's
Hey.
up, James?
Welcome
Oh,
back,
special
James.
guest James West.
That's funny.
That's like a protest chant.
That's
Special guest James West.
Exactly.
Special guest James West.
for you. Surprisingly, that's the first time I think I've heard that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you should be a special guest more often.
Yeah, it's fun to be a returning guest.
Yeah.
That's
hey,
right.
that's right.
Welcome back
It's
to the old
Special
podcast.
guest returning guest James West.
It's episode 20, and we are here to talk about speedrunning and games done quick. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about a lot of news, so I'm going to take us through this stuff pretty fast.
Sure. And just a little bit of a disclaimer. We are recording on a Monday night instead of our normal Tuesday night. So there might be some news that we missed that pops out on Tuesday, but, forgive us. We are only human.
And we're also recording in the hospital again.
We are back in the hospital for the third time.
We squeezed in a fourth chair. It's tight quarters, but we're making it work.
Yeah, we just took a photo. We forgot to take a photo the last 2 weeks of our setup, but hopefully you guys will find it amusing.
Yeah, if you're ready for some wholesome content that's coming at you.
Yeah. But just so you know, we should be recording. I think we should be able to record at your house next week. Maybe I can cut this out. But
And your address is...
basically, I should. What I'm trying to say is I should be out of the hospital on Sunday. And I'm very
Yay.
excited. I can finally see my cat after 3 long weeks. So I'm pumped.
Thought you were going to say
yeah.
kids there. I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
I can finally see my kids. I missed Father's Day.
All right, moving into the news and rumors section, we have a lot of stuff, and a lot of this is interviews that happened at E3, and so we're going to breeze through it because a lot of it's just like, hey, check this out if you're interested, but there's a nice little nugget or two in there. So Time magazine did an interview with Doug Bowser at E3, and they asked him all the questions that we all want answers to, and he evaded all of the answers.
Oh, so
Very
he is like
successful.
Reggie.
He is. He's doing his job right. He won't answer questions about streaming or about, like delays and stuff. Like, he just did a really good job of sidestepping each question and
Sure.
giving marketing speak. So check that out to learn a little bit more about Doug Bowser. They went around and asked, Nintendo, as well as a bunch of other developers, about crunch, and Nintendo kind of talked about that's one of the reasons they delayed Animal Crossing. And so, hey, guess that's good that they delayed it.
Yeah, I think it was the Animal Crossing devs in particular that said basically we didn't want to put our employees in undue stress to hit the release date. You know what I mean? And I think that makes a ton of sense, and it's very admirable.
It's really cool too in like a climate right now where that's a big part of the conversation, to have like a major company like Nintendo step up and say, we value our employees over, perceived profits.
Yeah, considering that Amazon Game Studios just had layoffs like during E3.
Before they ever even released a game.
Yeah.
But it was funny too. And the kind of sad part of the story is that as soon as that interview came out and they said that we delayed the game because we didn't want crunch, Nintendo stocks fell.
Right.
So actually, I did see a tweet from someone. I don't know how valid this is, but basically they said that like Nintendo's stock is weird, and anytime they do anything, their stock takes a dip. So it's not totally abnormal.
Right.
Anyway,
People were attributing it to that, at least. We don't know. But we haven't really talked about crunch on this show yet, I don't think. And that's when developers are, forced to work 1 million hours a week to finish a game. And I would like to say that we're all against that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And frankly, I'm as a consumer, I'm fine with delaying games in order to.
Right.
And I don't notice necessarily that it requires delaying games either. I think it requires a certain level of skill and planning.
Right.
But if the choice is kill your developers and get a game out on time or delay it a couple of months, I'll wait.
And as Nintendo fans, I think we're used to delays at this point. Like back before like the patch days, when they would just release a game that's like half made and then patch it until it's released. Like we were so used to being like, oh, we'll just wait an extra 6 months for Ocarina of Time or whatever. You know what I mean? And so I think we should be more patient in general as a human species.
While we're talking about Animal Crossing, some somewhat bad news came out that Animal Crossing, the new game, is not going to support cloud saves on the Nintendo Switch Online.
Womp womp.
So that's a bummer. They've done this with some of their like online games like Splatoon and stuff because and I don't know a whole lot about this.
Pokemon Let's Go as well.
Games where it would be nice to have cloud saves because you spend shit tons of hours, but because of the way they save their data, I guess they don't want you to do save scumming.
Right.
And I don't know, again, maybe like you said before we recorded this, Splatoon is a competitive game, so that might make some sense. But,
kind of. Yeah,
but even there, I'm like, if somebody wants to, go back and get another chunk erased or whatever, I don't even know what you could do. But especially in Animal Crossing, it's just a fun, relaxing game, right? If somebody wants to cheat and get some extra seashells or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This wouldn't matter if there was a method with which to take your saves physically off of your Switch. Like if you could plug the SD card or whatever, or plug like a USB stick or something into the Switch.
Create a backup.
Yeah, and create your own local backup. I think that this wouldn't matter so much, right? But since the cloud is the only way to back up your saves, this is really unfortunate, especially for a game like Animal Crossing where like you might... you're building,
play it for years
especially
and
this
years.
one where it's like you have to build the town. You know, it's like from nothing. Like people are going to be putting hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game, and to lose that because you dropped your Switch in the toilet or something, like that would really suck.
I did just think of this joke real quick. It might be awful, so hear me out. What do Animal Crossing and Eris have in common? No cloud saves.
Oh my god, that's really funny. You did a really funny joke there.
Professional comedian James West.
Despite the Nintendo stocks going down a little bit after E3, and maybe related to that Animal Crossing delay, or maybe just because Nintendo did something per James West's suggestion. There's an NPD analyst who had like an opinion piece. That's the National Purchase Diary we've talked about on the show before, where they are predicting that Nintendo will be the best-selling publisher of 2019, just based on sales to date and games that are coming up. So I guess take that, people who sold their stocks.
Right. I mean, this has been kind of a skip year for Sony. You know what I mean? They weren't at E3. They don't have too many major games coming out. I think most of the games that are the big games for this year for Sony have already come out, maybe, next to Death Stranding later in the year. So it kind of makes sense. And, the Switch has been on the rise. This is good news for Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
So now I want to get into the Breath of the Wild sequel stuff because at E3, well, first let's talk about the trailer. Since last week, people have played the trailer backwards, and because it sounds like there's voices talking backwards, but a lot of those are still just jacked up. But there is some audio you can hear where it's like a woman's voice saying, "Help us, please." And I was skeptical of this, David. You may remember this because people posted it backwards online. I was like, I don't believe it. But then I went and like did my own. Yeah. I flipped the YouTube video and
it's hella creepy.
using like a tool, and I was like, oh, okay, it's actually in there.
Huh.
It is interesting.
Is it?
It's very dark and foreboding and creepy. I think Aonuma even was like asked if this was like similar to Majora's Mask, and he's like, it's darker than Majora's Mask.
That's true. That was
it's
one
like,
of the
how
things.
can you get darker than a game where everybody knows they're about to die?
So yeah, Aonuma is the Zelda producer of many Zelda games, and there were a lot of people that asked him a lot of interesting questions on the floor, and of course he dodged a lot of them. But somebody from Kotaku asked him about playable Zelda, and this was really interesting to me because he kind of like flipped it. He's like, well, why do you think Zelda is playable? And the guy was like, well, because
she has short hair.
He was like, well, because you just saved her at the end of the first one.
And here she is in the dungeon.
And here she is again.
Yeah.
And also people want that. Everybody wants that. And and Aonuma was saying that like everybody's asking him that question.
Right.
So if they weren't already planning on it, there's part of me that thinks that like this might be like, man, everybody fucking wants it.
I also feel like if she wasn't playable, he would have just said no.
Yeah, that's true, because there was people saying that like they asked about like when I guess this was like maybe the first Breath of the Wild was announced that they thought it looked androgynous. Link looked androgynous, and then they asked if there was something to that, and they're like, no.
Yeah,
he straight up said no.
No, that is Link the boy.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Tommy Green, a Switch head out there, who's been like talking about Zelda lore and really kind of speculating on what this sequel trailer might mean for like the lore of the franchise.
And he's been wanting like co-op playable Zelda for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
His posts in the Facebook group have been really interesting.
Yeah, he's posted some links to some YouTube stuff and other stuff. So yeah, that's
some
crazy.
of the fun speculation, just not to get in too detail, is that maybe the creature with the red hair, where the green hand is holding down, is Ganondorf, and the
Twilight Princess
Ganondorf, which would connect all of the different series and all the different Ganons. And the Ganon that you fight in Breath of the Wild is a fake distraction Ganon. That's why it's called Calamity Ganon, and it's not actually. It's he was just a distraction so he can gain power to regain his physical form.
Huh.
And the green
that makes sense too, because I think this dungeon, it seems like it's underneath the castle. Yeah.
And there was some other speculation about part of the story at the beginning of Breath of the Wild. It says the true strength will be found underground, and it's a green hand, and that might be representing the Triforce of Courage, I think.
Yeah, there was some like old concept art of like Link's hand morphing into different weapons, basically.
Oh, right.
And that was kind of a scrapped concept for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that was shown at GDC.
Yeah, it was like a GDC
March of
talk.
this year.
Yeah, and basically a lot of people are thinking that they're going to be using that for this because it kind of seems like that hand kind of latches on to Link. You know what I mean? So that'd be cool if you could just turn your hand to a sword or hammer or whatever. It'd be pretty sweet.
This is really cool. It feels like a first maybe true sequel. That we might get.
Well, and speaking of which, Aonuma it was asked by Game Informer some questions about it too, and he said that it is the same Hyrule from the Breath of the Wild.
I see. I'm really curious about what is going to happen that is going to change the landscape, because like they're not just going to release the same map a second time.
Yeah. What are they going to do to spice it up and make it interesting? Because like even Majora's Mask, which used the same engine and a lot of the same assets, had a completely different world map. You know, so it's like, are we going to get bored playing the same shit? Is all the new stuff going to be underground? Like, so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, but I am just so ready to learn those answers.
I know, I'm stoked.
Yeah.
And Aonuma got a promotion. It was actually a few people did. GamesIndustry.biz is reporting on this, that Aonuma will continue to be the producer of the Zelda series, but he's now a deputy general manager
at Nintendo. At all of Nintendo.
All of Nintendo.
Right.
Also, the Splatoon producer, Nogami, he got the same title as well.
Cool.
And one of the Animal Crossing, maybe just a developer, is now like a manager of that whole group, which they do Splatoon and Animal Crossing. So those were 3 promotions that happened.
This is really good, I think. This is bringing it back to some of the time of Satoru Iwata, right? Because Iwata was a game developer, right? Like he started as a programmer and then basically started learning the business. And then a lot of the stuff that like business decisions that he was making came from a gamer focused perspective, right? Not just a business perspective. So I think putting a lot of these people in positions of power to make big decisions at Nintendo and them being developers, I think can only be a good thing.
Moving on to just another interview. Nintendo Life interviewed the Tetris creator, and how do you say his name, David?
That is
Alexei.
Yeah, Alexei Pajitnov. Alexei Pajitnov.
And it's a really interesting interview. You should check it out. But one thing that is of Switch mention is that he talks about how he does play Tetris 99.
That's so cool. Yeah,
and he doesn't win.
I doubt it. I mean, he's used to playing on like an old Soviet era PC.
Well, and he talks about, and I'm sure this is true, like the best people at the games aren't always the people that make them. They're the people that sink shit tons of time into playing.
Yeah. He's a really cool guy though. Like
it's a good interview.
And there's a whole great story of the history of Tetris, and that at first he didn't own the game at all, and now it's like all come around, and now he's one of the 2 owners of the Tetris company, and it's like, so surely he's played it because this is like the biggest hit that they have right now, and so that's just exciting to hear this kind of news. Yeah.
But they asked him about like his least favorite Tetris block and that kind of stuff. It's just interesting. Which is the square, by the way.
I think I agree.
His favorite is the J piece, and I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to hear him thinking about that, and all the other Tetris games. Like he talks about Tetris Effect and stuff.
Yeah.
How dare you call it a Tetris piece? It's a Tetramino.
No, sorry, a Tetramino, correct. Yeah.
Tetramino, Tetramino.
Oh, shit.
Tetramino.
Now I'm the asshole.
Like a domino.
I always called it Tetramino.
I think I've heard Alexei Pajitnov in an interview say Tetramino.
Tetramino.
Yeah.
With his
Traumino.
Russian accent.
You Tetramino.
My wife's
Da.
joke. My wife's joke. Anytime I correct her pronunciation on anything is, I've heard it both ways.
yeah. Tetramino, Tetramino. Hey, let's blow the whole thing off.
So, US Gamer did a interesting long interview with the Pokemon director and producer, and this is our chance to sort of talk about the continued backlash against the Pokemon Sword and Shield games for not having or allowing you to bring in all pre-existing Pokemon. And they talked about it was going to happen at some point. They weren't going to be able to do it, and they just kind of decided that this is the game where they're not going to
Right. So that's
it.
called the national dex, right? So there's like regional dexes, so there'll be like a Galar region dex. And basically they're saying even if you have all the Pokemon in the Pokemon bank up to this point, only the Pokemon that are catchable in the game are going to be able to be transferred from the Pokemon bank.
And Pokemon Bank's going away, right? Isn't it going to all be Pokemon Home?
Yeah, I
or
think
whatever
basically
from
everyone's
now?
just going to transfer all their stuff over to Pokemon Home.
Which is weird because it's a new thing,
Yeah.
but they're not going to support that. I think that's what's kind of interesting about it too.
Yeah, and I think people just kind of had the wool pulled over their eyes a little bit because in that Pokemon press conference, the graphics showed sending stuff from Pokemon Home to the game. I mean, there's been a pretty massive backlash. Like
Yeah.
Pokemon fans are pissed.
They are going nuts.
And it's the thing is, it's like I can see them either fixing it because of the backlash or just ignoring it because really the backlash is a very small amount of people.
Just very
Right.
vocal.
Well,
Yeah.
and like you said, like at some point there is a limit to the number of, pieces of data they could put on this card. Like they're going to have to draw the line somewhere, and they're going to, no matter when they do it, people are going to be mad. Just pull the ripcord now.
I didn't realize you were such a quitter, James.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, and part of the backlash is that Sword and Shield use some of the same assets and
Right.
as previous Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they say it's for new animations, but like they've been using the same animations forever, and most of the time they just move them on the screen whenever they're doing an attack. It's not like each Pokemon has like a million animations. You know what I mean? I think the only thing that might be a thing is like them walking around in the wild areas, but you wouldn't even be able to catch them in that way anyway. So I personally don't see why it would be that big of a problem. They say that it's because of balance and they really want to balance the game, but like none of the Pokemon games have been like especially balanced. So it's like, I think it's worth it to put in the time and hopefully patch it in at a later date, or maybe an Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield. We'll
Right.
see it.
That's the other cynical view, right? That they're going to do it and resell the
for
game.
release,
I really hope that's not the case, but I
Yeah, that
imagine
would-
it will be.
That would be a bummer.
I also just kind of feel like maybe they just take this forward and but they should have gotten rid of the home. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing that would make me happy. They pause all development and they move all development towards a little game called Town.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to get Town this year anymore, by the
no,
way.
I mentioned this before we were recording. I've been listening to other. I'm sorry, guys. I listened to some other gaming podcasts.
What the fuck?
But I was listening to Vice's gaming podcast, and they mentioned Town in one episode, and I lost my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rewatched the September Direct where they mentioned Town coming in 2019.
Yeah.
Just to try to
you.
recapture a
Come
taste.
on.
Dude. What if Town sucks?
I watched some videos. I'm hopeful, David.
We'll see.
Another interview, Eurogamer talked to Bill Trinan at E3 about Luigi's Mansion 3. And there's
Billy
some
boy.
interesting stuff in there. But the funniest thing was that Bill Trinan mentioned that Luigi as a lead character, is popular with the female audience. So
Sexist.
Because he's lithe. He's thin and tall.
He's lithe? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely like a sex pot.
Yeah. He's a real freak. Come on, Guigi? We don't have to bring it up.
His cum becomes its own version of himself. Should we not have that in the podcast?
I think it's all right.
Nah, it's okay.
One thing that also a lot of people were worried about is that portrait ghosts are back in this game. They weren't in the second one. So if you were anxious about that,
What
there
are
you go.
portrait ghosts?
It's one of the enemy types in the game. I don't know a lot about it because I have not
It just
played
kept
them.
me up every night just wondering if there would be portrait ghosts in this
But
game, and I can finally sleep.
It is something I know some people
That's actually why
follow
you're
it.
in the hospital.
Yeah, I threw out my back worrying about portrait ghosts.
Moving right along, one thing we talked about is who ported Witcher 3, and that's come out. It was Saber Interactive, and they don't have the best track record.
Yeah, what other games have they done?
They've done some of the 2K games.
Right.
So
All ports?
yeah, like for the Switch in particular, they did the NBA Playgrounds, NBA 2K Playgrounds.
Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
It's looking good. I mean, I watched Digital Foundry's like tech analysis of the 35 seconds or whatever of the trailer.
I mean, it's
it's looking, I mean, really decent. And I mean, as far as the trailer was concerned, there was no slowdown, but of course, I don't think they would show areas with slowdown in the trailer.
I mean, that's also such a huge franchise. You have to imagine they're putting some serious resources into.
Yeah. But that makes me wonder what Panic Button is working on, because I'm sure they're working on more ports. I know Bethesda kind of hinted that Switch owners might have something to be excited about in the coming months, so maybe we'll be getting a port of some Fallout stuff from Panic Button. That'd be really
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Digital Foundry. I love all of their content.
Yeah.
They break down really the technical specs of
And
games.
DF Retro is really good too, like
Yeah.
looking at the old games. Yeah, it's a great channel. Check them out.
So, Giant Bomb talked to Microsoft's Phil Spencer at E3 about the possibility of Game Pass coming to the Switch, and this was our first like actual somebody that saying something about it.
Yeah.
And it didn't sound good. But you never know. He was basically saying that they're putting, oh, that sounds cool. We'd like to do that, but we're really focused elsewhere. We're really focused on trying to get it on Android right now. So that could just be, they don't have anything to announce. And they are working on it, but it didn't make it sound like it was anything coming soon.
One of the things about that I thought was interesting was he was talking about xCloud and Game Pass as the same thing, basically.
Interchangeably?
Yeah. So I think when he's talking about bringing Game Pass to Android, he's talking about streaming. So I think that if Game Pass were to come to Switch, I think it would be within a streaming mode. You know what I mean? I don't think that they would be just porting games over and you could download them. I think it would have to be you're on a stable internet connection and you would be streaming them through xCloud.
So is there a difference between the two? Is Xbox Game Pass like the marketplace and then xCloud is the tech?
Yeah.
I think if you get
That's what I
Game
understand
Pass,
it
you
as.
get like a certain amount of games for free, right?
Right.
You can just download them, and it sort of rotates in and out of what's available.
Yeah, and then if you're
That's
not, and then if you're on a
close.
platform that isn't Xbox or PC, you stream them. That's how I understand it. Yeah.
That makes sense. So it works like Sega Channel.
Kind of. Yeah. The Famicom like Satellaview system.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So, Wall Street Journal reported on Nintendo moving some production out of China based on the potential U.S. tariffs that are being talked about. This is our chance to get political if we want to.
Yeah.
Finally.
And for the record, we're all Trump supporters.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Yeah.
So, they're going to move some production to Southeast Asia. And the Wall Street Journal also mentioned in this that there are two Switch revisions that are being produced in Southeast Asia. So what do y'all think about that? Both either the tariff part or them continuing to report on
My
this?
prediction is that these will be announced tomorrow, Tuesday morning.
And then we will have already talked about this.
Yeah,
It sounds like
exactly.
dumbasses.
I still think we're going to be hearing news about this very soon.
Yeah.
So they moved production from China, I would assume.
To somewhere in Southeast Asia. I did not specify.
Like the Philippines or
To a
Indonesia
secret
or something
location,
like that.
a volcano, a volcano island.
In Mount Fuji. There's a Switch factory.
So I'm gonna let you take this one, Matthew. There was like a tweet that Annapurna, the developer,
Yeah,
had today.
Annapurna Interactive has this game called, I'm trying to think.
What Remains of Edith Finch.
What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah. Eduardo was talking about it as like one of his most like...
It was like an early indie game, right?
Yeah.
Or
It's like a walking simulator
big popular
style
indie game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I've never played it, but I've always wanted to play, especially on the Switch. And
I've heard really good things. Yeah.
They someone left a comment in one of their posts that says, "Please bring it to the Switch," or like the Switch.
I think that they
won't
like
handle it.
They
or
would
something
tweet.
like
They
that.
tweeted some like eBay, somebody reselling one of their collector's
thank you, that's
editions,
right,
and
yeah.
we're like, "Don't be this guy." And then somebody tweeted like, "Don't be Annapurna, who won't put their game Edith Finch on the Switch," or something.
And they were like, don't be so sure.
So we'll see.
That's pretty exciting. It is like a gorgeous game that was known for being striking visually and like power wise on the PlayStation. So if they do bring it over, it's going to take a hit, but hopefully it'll still look good.
And just before we started recording, Dr. Mario World, the mobile game, got a release date and the trailer, and it looks weird to me.
It's like upside down Dr. Mario.
It's definitely a departure from the traditional Dr. Mario style, but like in a way that seems like interesting and, and maybe worth a look. So.
And would work on mobile where so you like drag the piece instead of of like moving it with tactile buttons or whatever.
And it only takes 3 connecting pieces to destroy the viruses instead of 4.
They're weaker viruses.
And there's more complicated puzzles too. It looked very Candy Crush to me too, in the monetization as well.
Right.
So I mean, I kind of imagine that with a Dr. Mario skin over it, but
I think it looks pretty fun.
But it looks fun.
It's following that trend of Nintendo with their mobile releases, where it's like it's kind of like the game that you know, but different enough to where you'll still want to buy that game, like the normal game, on a dedicated console.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like it looks like it and feels like it, and it's got the essence of it, but it's a unique thing for mobile platforms. You know what I mean?
And that's coming July 10th. So
yeah, and you can pre-register. We don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
But
I pre-registered it, and I think that means it's going to download when it releases.
Cool. I'll just click download after it releases.
But I think the craziest thing is that we have different doctors now. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
Dr. Peach
Dr.
and Dr.
Peach.
Bowser.
Was there a Dr. Bowser? I didn't
Yeah.
see
the
that.
very end, of the trailer.
So the whole gang just went to medical school.
Yeah.
Now, I want to see that anime.
Is Mario upset about
It's
that?
like
I was the only doctor.
Yeah.
Now we're all doctors.
Yeah, he's like, oh, everybody's a fucking doctor.
Maybe we'll get Smash Bros. Skins where everyone gets doctor.
That would be nice.
Everyone
No,
is
we should
here.
get Echo Fighters of them all as doctors.
That would be great.
Dr. Yoshi, I will just say, I don't think that they should give dinosaurs medical licenses. I think it's very, I think it's
tax
opening a can of
evaders.
worms, and that is very irresponsible.
There's no way they're going to be able to get, sanitary or whatever. It's called.
Yeah, he's fucking, he's going to have his
Sterile.
egg juice all
Yeah,
over
sterile,
everything. Yeah.
It's egg juice.
His tongue is just too long to be a doctor.
Well, that ends our news section of the show. And we're moving on to our main topic, which is Games Done Quick. And I'm going to let you guys sort of fill in here, but it's Games Done Quick is like an organization now that does like 2 events, as I understand it. There's Awesome Games Done Quick, which is in the winter, and Summer Games Done Quick, which is coming up. And that one is happening on June 23rd through the 30th. So that's real soon.
Fast approaching.
coming
And,
up.
That's the day I get out of the hospital.
there you go.
I'm going to sit at
That's
home and
a-
watch, 7 days, 24 hours a day of Games
Well,
Done Quick on my couch.
Yeah, so for everybody out there that doesn't know what Games Done Quick is, James, do you want to tell us about the
Absolutely.
history and what it is and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so Games Done Quick, like you mentioned, it's biannual or semi-annual, or it happens twice a year. But basically the premise is it is a week-long, 24 hours a day speedrunning marathon. And so, but it's an exhibition as opposed to like an actual competition. Like,
Right.
These are people coming up to show what they can do and their skills, and they're not necessarily aiming for like world records.
And I don't want, just to interrupt, because I do have like somebody that listens to the podcast that's like always wants me to explain stuff.
Oh yeah, sure.
Speed
called
running.
them
Oh yeah,
You
of
know what
course.
I
Yeah,
mean?
we
Like,
should
I'm
explain
sorry,
speedrunning.
we should start there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
just-
basically, speedrunning came around when people got bored with the games that they owned and basically decided that they wanted to be the fastest in the world to beat a certain game, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of speedrunning, you'll find people like breaking the game or like exploiting glitches to basically beat the game as fast as humanly possible.
It's one of the really interesting things you learn watching speedrunners is they're first of all, the thing that I enjoy the most is everybody who isn't a speedrunner is a casual gamer. You're all so
Even
you're
if
all,
you beat games,
doesn't matter. You're a
regularly
filthy
and-
casual.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they enjoy games differently than you would normally. Like you
Yeah.
play through a Mario game and like, oh, the fun is the challenge of getting through the levels and getting to the end of the game. And for them, it is efficiency maximizing at nearly any cost. Like glitching out is a pretty constant thing.
Right.
Yeah,
It-
maybe we can give a few examples of what the glitching out might look like.
Sure. So one of the ones that comes to mind for me immediately was in a Metroid Prime run where like they just ran into a wall enough times to break out of the side of the wall. Like they clip through the wall into the area beyond the level. And then they managed to move around outside of the level in a way that didn't kill them, but did get them towards the end of the level faster than if they had just gone through the level normally. So
another example too is like in Ocarina of Time, like they're like basically we all think that the fastest way to move around the fields of Hyrule is to like roll, right? But the way that speedrunners do it is they like attack and jump and then basically slide back at a really fast pace. And so a lot of times when you're watching like an Ocarina of Time speedrun, you don't see where you're going. You just see backwards, right? Or it's like they're moving backwards at an incredibly fast pace. So you have to know where everything is to like move your stick at the right time to be able to do everything. So it's stuff like kind of like that.
And to be clear, there's different categories of speedrunning too. Like there's people that like to do it without exploiting glitches, and then there's people that do it with computer-aided tools.
Tool assisted, which is where it's like broken down frame by frame, and the controls, rather than being performed by a human, are performed by a computer, so that you can, if it's like a frame perfect trick, which is like a trick that requires that you do it exactly at this instant on this frame, it's obviously far easier to do that with a computer that can do that perfectly.
And those are kind of done with like save states and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
it's very similar to save states. So if you're familiar with that, versus human done speedruns, which are obviously just, at the whims of whatever errors you happen to.
So I apologize. It took us way off topic.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
No,
I was about to explain some of the other categories.
So one of the classic categories beyond that is what's called any percent, which is complete the game with no restrictions.
Like get to the credits.
Yeah, basically, like if there's a way to glitch through and beat it in 15 minutes by backing out of the main entryway, that's perfectly legitimate. And then there are other categories, and each game is kind of its own community.
Right.
So you'll hear on GDQ these people playing like Donkey Kong, and there's a Donkey Kong speedrunning community. So they all
they have
talk.
A Discord and everything.
Exactly. They all talk and work together. It's a very communal thing. But they kind of invent, based on the specifics of the game, their own categories too. So like one of the classic ones for Donkey Kong, I think it's 105%, because if you get everything in Donkey Kong Country, it's not 100%, you get 105% on your save.
Right.
But yeah, 100% would be getting all the collectibles, but then there's also some variation in what that means. So it's like maybe not getting all the coins in Mario, but getting all the stars or whatever.
Right.
And so backing out then to games done quick. So
sorry. So
the history of that.
You are forgiven.
Sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking here.
Good.
But I really
there's a lot to explain about speedrunning. I'm realizing right now.
So games done quick was my introduction to speedrunning, and I want to preface this all by saying, like, I learned everything about speedrunning from watching games done quick. I don't usually watch speedruns the rest of the year. So it's a very accessible event. What they do is 24 hours a day, they will have people speedrunning video games, and they have a schedule, so it's all laid out.
Tons of different games from all different platforms.
Old school games, new games, just everything you could imagine. And they'll have a person playing the game, and they'll usually have someone on a couch behind them, and the person on the couch, or oftentimes the person playing the game, will, while they are playing, explain what they are doing. And this is, I feel like, the really key part, because it makes it to where it's understandable to a normal human being
and fun to watch, more fun to watch than a speedrunner.
You wouldn't know what you're watching half of the time.
As opposed to where, like David was describing with Legend of Zelda, where they're doing some weird backwards shit. You don't know what's going on when there's someone explaining, like, oh, they're doing this because it saves 3 frames per movement or whatever, and that stacks up over time.
And so when did it started? Around 2010 or so?
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah, it's always streamed on Twitch every year.
Yeah, so the very first one was in 2010, and it was supposed to be at a convention. I forget the name of it, but they didn't have a good enough internet speed. So in true gamer fashion, they moved it to some guy's basement.
Yeah.
So the very first one happened in Mike Uyama's basement, who's one of the guys from Speed Demo's archive.
And they raised money too.
The whole thing is for charity. Yeah,
Was that part of it originally? Do you know?
It was always a charity event. It's gotten exponentially bigger. AGDQ this year raised 2 point something million $2.2 million.
It's crazy. And every single GDQ, they raise more than the last one.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's gone down yet.
It always gets bigger. They've got a lot of kind of big sponsors too. A lot of people kind of doubling or adding their own donations. So it's individuals watching the game. Watching the games will donate, and they read out their like donation messages on Twitch, which is really cool and fun too.
And this is it all usually benefits the Prevent Cancer Foundation.
They also do Doctors Without Borders
and Doctors Without Borders. That's right.
One of those for
they
GDQ
alternate.
and
I
one
believe
for
it's Prevent Cancer Foundation in winter and Doctors Without Borders in summer.
Yeah, and it's pretty miraculous seeing the gaming community kind of come together for charity. And this is something that we've seen a lot before, like Humble Bundle. Like whenever they were doing those Humble monthly bundles or whatever, like they would do, a certain amount would go to the devs, a certain amount would go to Humble Bundle themselves, and then the rest of it always went to charity. And I think that was something that gamers, for some reason, have really latched on to giving for charity. And I think it's one of the best things about the gaming community, and especially the speedrunning community.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think gaming a lot of times can get kind of a bad rap. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is an opportunity to be like, hey, no, there's something really positive that we all do together, celebrating this thing that we all love.
And is it fair to say it's become almost more like a convention now? Or like there are panels and things that happen?
I don't actually know.
They do interviews and stuff. Like in between speedruns, sometimes they'll do like... They'll interview people who are about to go up and kind of talk about their process and talk about the community for whatever game they're doing. I don't know that they have like panels necessarily. I think pretty much everything is all on the one stage. Yeah, and then as far as I understand.
From what I've gathered, although this might be incorrect, most of the attendants are themselves speedrunners. Yeah. And if they're not performing on stage, they're in the back rooms practicing or playing other games.
Most of the viewership is online.
Then. Yeah, I would by far. Most of the people are watching on Twitch.
Where do the shows take place at?
Oh god,
this one's in Bloomington, and I don't know if it's always there, but Bloomington, Minnesota is.
They've moved I think they move it around a few times, but I think lately I think they've done it in Maryland. They do it. It's just kind of. I'm sure there's a reason, but it always seems like a weird random pick.
Basically, whenever a GDQ comes around, I always forget that it's about to happen. So that's why I'm kind of excited that we're talking about this before it drops.
Yeah,
because it's such an exciting time because it's I've got major ADD and I always have to have kind of something on in the background while I'm doing shit. And so GDQ is the perfect thing to have on while you're working or doing something else, or if you're trying to fall asleep, just put on GDQ, you know what I mean? And fall asleep to it.
It's such good background noise and it's on 24 hours a day. So I watch it at work. That's basically, I put it on when I get in and watch it. And it's super fun to watch in weird hours too. Cause that's when that's when
the real weirdo games come out.
They schedule it prime time where, from 6 to 10 or whatever, that's when they play the Marios and the Metroids and Zeldas and stuff. But then at 2 a.m, some guy who's the only guy who speed runs this obscure Japanese game gets up and talks about it. And they're not all winners, but every once in a while you find that gem and it's so worth it. It's so good.
Yeah, some highlights that I was watching from either last year or the year before it, some guy was playing Serious Sam 2. It was just such a specific PC shooter game.
Yeah.
In order to move quickly, you have a second player shoot the first player in the back in order to move faster. And I was cool. Oh yeah, that's so cool.
That's great.
There's a bunch of weird ones too. I've seen I think it was a Mario run where it was one person used their right hand on the NES controller to jump, and the other person, it was co-op, but they were playing with one controller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they'll do a lot of weird stuff like that. They'll do blindfolded runs.
Yeah, blindfoldeds are real popular.
Yeah, there's lots of crazy stuff. The relay races are really fun.
I remember watching one of the first ones I watched, they did a Mario Maker relay, which was the closest I've ever gotten up to that point at enjoying a sport. Because it was the watching these. So what would happen was they had a bunch of speedrunners make Mario Maker levels explicitly for this. And then they had teams of 4. And if you died, you had to hand the controller to the next person and go to the back of the line.
That's great.
And so, they're just constantly rotating through these people. And you'd see them get, so close. And then there'd be some little spike or some bullshit. Yeah. And it was just cheering and oh no, that experience that sport. Every other sport fan knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was just like, oh, I walked into the office the next day and I was like, I get it now.
Yeah. I think
Let's talk about the sports.
I think just the great thing about GDQ overall is like, so many of these games are like games that you grew up with in your childhood, right? And you've played them through and you think you know everything there is to know about the game, but it's like you just see it in a new light, right? Yeah. And it's like taking all this stuff in by these people that are just fucking experts on this game. Like they know every single thing there is to know about it, even about like the code and how stuff is like put together. Like that stuff is really exciting to see.
So you mentioned that one of the I think the first one I ever watched was because they did, this was in 2011. They did a Legend of Zelda, the original for the NES, swordless run, which is he beat the game without ever going to the.
Like it's the first cave.
It's dangerous out there. Take this. He didn't take that. So mostly what he used were bombs when he had to deal damage to things. But so they explained it. There's like a counter for every enemy that you hit. This counter goes up, and eventually when you get to 10, I think it was, that's when you get a bomb drop. And so you have to constantly be thinking about where this counter is. Right. And when you get hit, it resets the counter. And so sometimes if he lost the count, he would go take an intentional hit in order to reset it, or he'd reset it so that later down the line he would have a bomb at this exact right moment when he needed it. And it was just so fascinating to hear that these people had just like stripped this game down to its bare bones.
Right. Yeah.
So they could understand how to just manipulate
how
it
to
in
beat
that
it
way.
faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
In a mode that is not abnormal. Like you're not supposed to play the game without a sword. So
I think another thing that's really good about GDQ, and this conversation is kind of all over the place, and I apologize, but like another thing that I really like about it is that like to be a speedrunner, you have to be a very specific kind of person, right? Like somebody who is like totally okay sitting inside and not interacting with a ton of people except online and just playing the same game over and over and over again. And that takes a very specific kind of person that generally is not very social.
And not just
a kind of antisocial person. And I think that something great about GDQ is that it's a place for all these antisocial people to come together and socialize. And you see that when you're there.
Good.
And it's great. And there always is a great cringe compilation at the end of every GDQ of just like the weirdest moments from all these people. But it's like, there's something about that I find so wholesome. You know what I mean?
It's this digital community coming together in a physical location for this epic purpose of charity. It's just really inspiring.
It's like forced human interaction.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting about speedrunning, like you said, is you play the same game over and over, but it's not like you explore it. I mean, maybe you do on some level, but you're just trying to, like you said, be efficient about it. So you're doing the same thing every time.
It's very robotic.
Get one tiny little bit faster, and a 0.01 second counts. You know what I mean?
They talk about that too. They're like, you do this trick, it saves 3 seconds. And it's like, I really like in a game that takes 6 hours to beat. Like, I can't believe that 3 seconds, but it does.
Yeah. Well, they add up over time. All those little skips. Yeah.
I think the first time that I saw someone play a game in this way was when I watched King of Kong, a documentary about professional Donkey Kong players. And Steve Wiebe, one of the players in King of Kong, buys a Donkey Kong cabinet to install in his garage. And like several minutes, like 5-10 minutes throughout the whole movie, his wife's like, please come inside. Talk
to your children.
Donkey Kong. Yeah. His children are like, I have a musical recital tonight. Will you please come? And he's just like, trying to beat the high score.
Right, piss off, I gotta get back to the game.
Yeah.
He's not British.
He's not. I love King of Kong. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's one of the all-time great gaming documentaries.
Well, so I had a couple of other favorites. I mentioned most of them here, but one of the other classics was Pepsi Man, which is a real video game sponsored by Pepsi.
Can we break down what Pepsi Man is?
It's like a PlayStation game from the 90s.
I remember there being like a 7-Up game when I was a kid.
The Spot game.
Cool Spot.
Spot. Yeah. But
Pepsi Man is way better.
This was like an Infinite Runner before Infinite Runners.
Yeah.
And Pepsi Man is like a Pepsi mascot that's like
he's basically the Silver
Japan.
Surfer, but Pepsi.
The Pepsi Surfer.
He's like a metallic man.
So he runs through the level collecting little, I want to say it was just little Pepsi orbs.
He also runs through people's houses.
Yeah.
It was just this really weird game, and like it takes about 20 minutes to play, and the guy doing it had great commentary on why he was doing everything, and it was just this, it's just this absurd, like this is the stuff, but this guy is so familiar with this game because he's played it 100,000 times.
Can I say a couple of my favorites?
Go for it.
Last year at, or I guess maybe it was this January at AGDQ, there was a Final Fantasy IX relay that was basically, because it's, that it still takes like 9 hours to beat that game if you're going to be speedrunning it, even as fast as you possibly can. So it was like split up between 3 people. And I just remember I was playing Final Fantasy IX during this time. Or actually maybe I saw it and that's what made me want to buy Final Fantasy IX. And then I ended up getting it. And then I would kind of go back because they put every single game up on YouTube.
It's all on YouTube.
Yeah. So all the VODs are up. And so I would like watch a little bit of it. But then I didn't want to get the story spoiled for me. So I would like go and like play more. And then whenever I got to a certain point, I would go back and watch that part of the speedrun and just see like all the shit I did wrong or like, that was a great one. And then another one of my favorites too was, Donkey Kong Country, trilogy, race. Where it was like all 3 games, like back to back to back and stuff like that. They'll do that with Mega Man as well, or like, the Super Mario games, like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Those are always really exciting because it's like, who's going to get there first? You know what I mean? There's like teams and all this kind of stuff.
They do
really
races a lot. Those are really fun to watch.
Yeah. And then one last one I just wanted to say was this AGDQ, one of my favorites was a speedrun of Chex Quest. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, but it was like
sponsored game.
Yeah, it was like so
it's
back
a PC game.
Yeah, back in the 90s, basically, or it might have even been 2000. Basically, Chex cereal had a CD-ROM packaged inside the cereal, and it was just a reskin of Doom. It was like a total conversion mod of Doom, where like basically instead of shooting monsters, you would be like zapping these like gooey dudes back to their homeworld or whatever. But you're playing a dude who is a giant Chex cereal piece, and basically this guy just was playing it completely seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they take all the goofy bullshit from video games completely seriously.
Yeah,
because they're not playing it for the goofy bullshit. They're playing it because they need to get
for the love of the game.
Yeah. A couple other ones I wanted to call out was Super Mario Odyssey. They did one at AGDQ this year.
That was epic.
And it was really fun to watch, but the part that really got to me was I'd donated like $30 at this point, and they were just shy of, they were at like 1.75 million. And they were like, when he gets to this point in the game, we're going to do a donation run. Everybody watching donate $3. And it's like $3. I throw that away at Taco Bell. Like $3 is easy. So of course I did it. And you're just watching this number grow and grow. And like we broke 2 million, and then it's 2.1 million, and you're just like losing your mind.
And it was like at the very end of GDQ as well. It was really, I actually kind of teared up at that.
I was just
I got emotional.
I got real emotional during that. That was just so cool to watch people come
That's
together.
definitely a highlight. Check that one out on YouTube, because that's like, if you want to see the community coming together and doing something really good, like you can hear the commentator like choking up, you can hear like the announcer choking up, like everybody's just like, holy shit, we just raised $500,000 in like 20 minutes.
Watching
insane.
people speedrun any game makes me feel like I'm terrible. Watching people speedrun Mario Odyssey in particular does, because the way they've mastered the jumping and just skip entire parts of things.
Oh, and it's getting better every day. Like people are finding new exploits and tricks and stuff to make that speedrun go down and down and down in time.
That's also really fun, is seeing a game the next year that you saw the previous year, and watching how it's evolved and changed, and like, what have they done differently? Or like, we did this jump last year and it was really hard, and we found a faster, more consistent way to do it.
I think for me, what made me appreciate speedrunning is I watched some YouTube video where they explained the history of Mario Brothers 1 speedrunning and all the different advances. And then it gets to the more modern era where it's getting down to those like nanoseconds. And you know what I mean? And those like frame perfect jumps you have to make and stuff.
Yeah, Mario 1 allegedly has an unbeatable world record right now. Like it's like as far as we know, like it is a perfect run.
Yeah, you cannot be faster than that. That's really interesting.
Unless they find something else in this 35-year-old
that's like
game.
what they thought before at some point. That's what I thought it was talking about that. You know, like it's like, will that change because they used to think this was an unbeatable one, and so on and so forth.
So the last highlight I have here is one of my favorites, Sonic the Hedgehog, the 2006 game. And the reason I wanted to pull this one out is like, it's famous for being just god awful.
James, I think there's a trend where you like watching games that are terrible games that are terrible games, which is okay. I also love terrible games.
It's really fascinating to watch people take a game that for all intents and purposes was bad and no fun and everyone hated it and turn it into something that they're really passionate about. And like really, they found the fun in it.
They should figure out a way to do speedruns of like reality TV or like terrible movies. Like, I mean, I guess you can do like re-edits of movies and stuff like that. It's kind of like that. But you're right. It's like any game can be good if you're if you add a different win condition to it.
You modify
you know
the parameters and you can make it fun. And that was, I feel like that's really at the heart of speedrunning.
Yeah. Damn. Well, tune in on the 23rd to
absolutely donate.
SGDQ this year.
It's June 23rd through June 30th.
Yeah. So it's all week, 24 hours a day.
It's on Twitch.
It's on Twitch.
And if you miss a game because it's at like 3 a.m. or something, don't fret about it. Within a couple days, it'll be up on YouTube and you can catch all the highlights.
Yeah. Their website is Games Done Quick, by the way. If you want to check that out.
Make a donation. I'm wearing one of the t-shirts right now.
Right.
They donate. The Yeti does t-shirts every year and they make donations from the sales.
I think also in lieu of donating, you can just like subscribe to their Twitch channel as
that's
well,
also,
which is like another way that you can donate.
Yeah.
And you can use your like Amazon like Twitch Prime account for GDQ, and then that money will go to charity.
They also sorry, I forgot about this. They also do like raffles and stuff too. So like you can make a donation and then put your I forgot. I got to talk about this part too. So you can put your money towards like a replica of the Master Sword or something like that. Or if you donate a cumulative $500 over the course of the week, you get thrown in a raffle for all of the current gen consoles or something.
Right.
But the other thing that's really fun is they have you can put your money towards like bonus runs. Like sometimes it'll be like, oh, this super secret level, we'll add this in if we make $2,000. Or the other big one is at the end of the Metroid where you get to pick to save the animals or kill the animals.
Right.
And they'll have this big back and forth. You can donate to either save or kill the animals.
Right.
And the whole week everybody's like, it's usually like 50-50 right up to the last minute.
Yeah.
And,
are you a save or kill guy?
I gotta go save.
Yeah, I kill.
But the problem is that if you save the animals, the game takes longer.
Yeah.
So you're it's save the frames, kill the animals.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, definitely check it out. If you haven't heard about it, hopefully this has gotten you kind of interested in it. I find it fascinating. Set a little bit of money aside for GDQ so you can donate to a good cause. It'll be Doctors Without Borders, I guess, this summer.
Also, if you like include a donation message, they almost always read it on camera too. So that's really fun. You can say something.
You can propose to your girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people have done that.
I was actually I was about to donate last year, and then my son was born. So this is a little more important.
You bought like a crib instead.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna put this $30.
That's important.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, that was awesome. Let's tell everybody what we've been playing recently. James, what have you been? What video games have you been playing recently?
I recently picked up a new game called Void Bastards. I wasn't planning on buying it right away, but there was Steam had like a thing where if you already own System Shock 2, you get 25% off. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll do that.
Is it by the same developers?
I believe it's a lot of the same team. So it's very much like to me. It's a roguelike. It's like FTL meets System Shock 2.
Okay.
In the sense that there's like a star map and you're jumping from spaceship to spaceship
on
the map.
Is it an FPS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go into this spaceship and look for objects, and you need the objects to build new equipment that you use, like better, armor or like new guns. And then also like quests that you're trying to complete. It's got a real fun sense of humor. You're a dehydrated prisoner that gets rehydrated. And then every time you die, you have a little backpack that blows off and jumps back to the spaceship and goes home. And then a new prisoner is rehydrated with different traits and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, it's really fun. It's got this cool kind of art style to it. I started playing it, was immediately like, oh shit, this is going to be great on the Switch when they inevitably port it. I'm really bummed that I bought it on PC.
But you think it'll come to the Switch?
I feel pretty confident.
You think it would run well?
I think, it's a very low demand
type
kind of game. So one of the interesting things is the enemies are all 2-dimensional.
Right. So
like, but they've got different angles they turn to, but it's just, they kind of pop to like, oh, now they're facing backwards or whatever. And
Right.
So it's a really cool art style. It's a really fun game. Definitely recommend it.
Nice. What about you, Matt?
I've been playing 3 games. The first game is it's a non-video game. It's a board game. I played a lot of Secret Hitler this past Friday.
Secret Hitler's great.
I love social deduction games. And in this game, you try to figure out or kill Hitler. But I was on the liberal side, and we were 1 round from winning, and we made 1 bad move, and I'm still thinking about it.
Man. Yeah. Don't let it get to you, man.
I'm still thinking about it.
I've been in, there was one time I was playing that game, and I was like, I know it's not you. I know I'm in my heart of hearts. And then, of course, they turned out to be.
So it's kind of like Mafia, I guess?
Yeah, it's very.
it's like Mafia or Ultimate Werewolf.
Right.
It's like Mafia, but there's no mayor. There's game mechanics.
Got it.
It's incredible. And I get really invested into it and really into it. And as soon as we lost, I walked away.
I've almost had a couple friendships.
I was just like,
Mafia. Yeah.
I knew it. We shouldn't have made her president. That was really fun. Also, another game I love so much is Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes.
Oh, that's a great
game.
game.
We talked about this on a previous podcast, I think on the games.
Hidden Gems.
Hidden Gems.
Were you playing it in VR?
I was playing it in VR. I played in PSVR.
This is the bomb defusal one?
That's right, yeah. And in VR, it's even great because the only person that can see the bomb is the person who has the VR headset.
Right.
Oh.
So it's like you're in a different room or something.
that's smart.
I just love any game that challenges me to think about the words that I use in order to communicate with another person. And to try to listen to the words that a person is telling me to remove any judgment from what they're saying. Come on, this is the wires puzzle.
As possible. Yeah.
It's like red wire, white wire. Okay, how many red wires? Be specific. It's been incredible. And third game is I picked up Cadence of Hyrule.
Nice.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
It's been fun. I don't think it's for me though.
I really bounced off of
Crypt of the
Necrodancer. I played it on my phone though, so I think that might have been part of the problem. But it just like I've played this game before. Like even with the rhythm element, it just didn't really do it for me. But I've heard really great things about.
I've been playing a little bit of it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aren't there like options though to turn off the rhythm aspect?
Yeah,
but then it puts you in like the scrub leaderboards.
Yeah, I don't want to be on the scrub leaderboards.
Well, but even more than that, when you turn like I don't want to turn. I want the rhythm part to be more engaging because like otherwise I could buy this game 100 other different ways. Like it's a very standard style of game with this rhythm element added on top of it, and so like I don't know, it didn't quite click for me. I'm sure there are fans of the game who will tell me I'm a moron.
Yeah, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I want to play it instinctively, I want to move on all of the beats,
right?
So, or like a quarter note, but I can only move on the whole beats,
right?
Right. And that's really hard for me.
It's difficult.
Something you should know about me if you want to annoy me is clap off beat. It drives me fucking nuts. And so I want to move on any beat that I want to. And the game won't let me, and that's really I've been dancing for like 10 years, so it's really difficult.
The thing that kind of breaks my brain about it a little bit is that you like. Pretty much everything you do is with the directional buttons, right? Like there are people that play Crypt of the Necrodancer on a DDR pad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, so when you're attacking, you're up next to a character and you press towards them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now they change it up in Cadence of Hyrule because there are items, you know, you have to like hold the shield button or use the hook shot or whatever. But it's like attacking on the beat as well as moving on the beat and then learning your enemies like attack patterns so that you can like hit them. It's just so much that you have to keep in your brain at once. And it's like, it's easier than Crypt of the Necrodancer, but like, still fucking hard.
It is very hard. I am not good at it.
Yeah, I need to sync. I haven't played too much of it. I want to put some more time into it, but yeah, it's like I definitely like got frustrated and shut it off. But we'll see if I come back to it. I'll go next. I guess a couple other games I've been playing in addition to that. There was basically an E3 sale, so I kind of took advantage of that and bought some games. One of them that I got for $3 was NBA 2K19. I've never really played sports games, but I've been playing a little bit of this because it was $3. $3, but also 32 gigabytes. This was a hefty,
that's like one of the biggest games on the
beast.
Switch.
Yeah, but like, But yeah, so that's fun and it's great. If you're here, I guess the sale will be over by the time you're listening to this.
Are you
so
playing
tough shit.
like the story season mode?
I haven't gotten to that yet. I've just been playing a couple matches, but I'm looking forward to playing more of that game.
I love NBA 2K. I played NBA 2K16. With a buddy of mine.
The new game is coming out this September, so they've like heavily discounted this one. But like for $3, like it was
great.
Great get. You should get it, Matt. We should play some online.
That sounds good. It's a great basketball simulation.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, I've been playing a little bit of the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy. I was playing a little bit of that before you guys came over. Not too much, but I'm already having fun. I'm looking forward to playing more. I know my girlfriend was really interested in that game, so we might play that some together.
Oh, that's cute.
But the game I've been playing most while I've been sitting in my hospital bed is another roguelike, and it's called Slay the Spire. Just came out on Switch. I was gonna not get it because it's $25, but I had a little bit of eShop credit left over, and I picked it up for like ended up being like $9.
Which Switch?
And man, I'm
talking
loving
about
it.
This.
It was my cousin James Patton.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Okay.
Nick.
Nick was talking about it too.
And yeah, it's so much fun. I watched this guy on YouTube named Northern Lion. He plays a lot of Binding of Isaac. I'm a huge Binding of Isaac fan, and he's just got like 560 episodes of Slay the Spire or something like that. Like he just plays it constantly. He'll do the daily challenges and stuff like that. And it's a great roguelike, like card mechanics based game. So it's basically you're going through kind of dungeons and you're fighting these monsters, and basically over the monster's head, whenever it's your turn, you'll always see what they're intending to do during their next turn. So, and it's also like a deck building game, right? Kind of like Dominion. So you'll start with like just 10 cards in your deck, and it's like 5 attack cards and 5 defend cards, right? And then after each monster that you kill, you get to pick between 3 cards. You get to add one of those 3 cards to your deck. So you're kind of picking your deck as you're going, and then you can like kind of start to find synergies between cards. And then basically, you can string all this stuff together, and then eventually the monsters get way harder, and there are bosses. You'll be fighting multiple monsters at once. You know what I mean? And then as you're going as well, you can kind of, go to shops or, find chests that give you relics that are permanent for that run. Right. And then, of course, it's a roguelike. So if you die, you start all the way back over again without any relics or anything like that. The only real progression in it is like you can unlock cards that will start to show up like after you play a certain number of times. So that's kind of the only real progression in it.
Yeah,
but
pretty classic roguelike.
Yeah, pretty classic roguelike. But man, it's fun. And I had kind of my hesitations about it because I'm not a huge like card mechanics video game guy other than like Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy. So I was a little hesitant to get it. Like Steamworld Quest doesn't really excite me very much. But I was surprised at how much I'm enjoying this game. This is going to be one that I know I'm going to probably sink like over 100 hours into. Let's check back in 6 months and actually check how much I actually have played it, because it's hitting that same Binding of Isaac button for me.
But one of the things I really like about Void Bastards is that it is a roguelike, but it is not like progression-less.
Because of the backpack thing?
Yeah, so you build equipment, but then the next person also gets to keep that equipment. So
cool.
If you're like me and you suck at video games...
At least you have a better shot than us.
Exactly.
You're not just like beaten down all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it makes it fun to be like, okay, well, it's worth the risk to go on this ship, even though I've got fewer resources, because I want that piece, and if I manage to get out with that piece, I'll at least have it for the next time.
And the alternative to that with games like Slay the Spire and Binding of Isaac is like, it's like, I'm not necessarily like keeping the cards or keeping the deck that I built up for that run, but it's like every time I play it, I'm getting better at the game.
Right,
and I'm
exactly.
like learning the game mechanics, and I'm learning like best practices and shit like that. You know what I mean? And then it's like when you finally beat the boss in a game like this, you just feel like a fucking god, because you've just been training your mind and body to like learn this game so much. So I love games like that.
Or if you're like me, you put like 60 hours into Enter the Gungeon and never get past the third.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat, bro.
We might be talking more about this topic in a future episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah,
but
that'd
real briefly, I've been playing some of the same games. I'm trying to beat some games before new games come out that I'm really excited about, because there's a lot coming out this summer, just Wolfenstein and Octopath and stuff. But I did go over to my other gamer cousin's house, Vincent Knisley's house, and he's a big PC gamer, and I played a game over there for a while called Mordhau, which was a lot of fun.
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about it.
It's like a group battle. I think it's maybe like 32 versus 32, and it's medieval. So like you can there's all these different kinds of classes of characters. You can be like a knight or an archer or all kinds of crazy stuff, and you can build your own classes as well. So he has a lot of custom classes he's built. And it's just a lot of fun to because it's pretty simple and you die a lot. You know what I mean? Because it's just by the nature of it. And it's sort of like a control the territory type
like
game.
like a Battlefield type.
Yeah, exactly. It's very similar to Battlefield, but medieval with swords and blocks and stuff like that. And I think there's another game coming out like that called Chivalry 2 soon as well. Too.
Yeah, the Chivalry games are cool.
But anyway, that's pretty cool. So,
hell yeah, we'll check it out. Hopefully, we get a Switch port.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's pretty both online intense and graphically good. So.
One more last thing I want to give a little bit of lip service to, and I actually haven't played this yet, but I want to try it. There was a Super Mario Brothers Battle Royale game that just released, and you play it in
unofficial,
Chrome.
We should say.
Yeah, it's unofficial. It's made by a fan. I'm just saying, jump on it before the cease and desist because like it looks really fun, and it's basically just 100 people all playing the same. It's like just the original Super Mario Brothers,
like
but 100 people playing at once, and you can run through each other. But like if you do something in the game, like if you send a shell back, it'll hit people behind you. Oh. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and apparently it runs really smooth, and you can play it in browser. So I'm probably actually going to fire that up whenever we're done recording this. But yeah, pick it up before the C&D.
Cool. So that's it for this episode number 20 on the books. Thanks, Corduroy, for giving us the music for this show.
Thanks, James, for giving us the idea for this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that I got to come back and talk about this.
And if, like James, you have ideas for an episode, or you just want to talk to us or ask us a question or whatever, contact us on one of the million platforms that exist on the internet. Because we're on almost all of them.
And if you're in Austin and you pitch us an idea for the show, we might have you on.
Yeah, there you go.
We're always looking for new guests.
So you can find me, Patrick, on most of the internet as PDYX.
You can find me on Twitter at Matthew, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji.
And I'm online as at Foxedo, FAUXEDO.
Very nice.
Clever.
That's very clever. Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the show. A reminder, we are on Twitter at Switchheads, Facebook and Instagram at Super Switchheads. Join our Facebook group. It's popping off. Just if you try to join, I'll bring you in. It's a private group, but we'd love to have you in.
As a fan of the podcast, the Facebook group is really fun. The Discord is really fun. During the direct, during the E3 Direct, all of us just being in a room,
the voice
and
chat,
everybody reacting and making jokes. It was super fun.
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight of my week.
Yeah, for sure.
Be sure to tune in next week. We love you guys. Thanks for listening, and bye.